Okay. I'm gonna call the Bristol Selectboard meeting for Monday, April 12th to order 2021 at, let's take a look at the time. 7:06 p.m. First, we'll review agenda for any additional items. Val, I think you had a couple, right?
Right, there are two, the April 6th special select board meeting minutes, and also the contract, the annual contract with Homeward Bound, the society, the Humane Society contract.
Okay, so minutes can go in under 11. What date was that?
April 6th.
April 6th.
April
I
6th.
recommend
Okay.
the Homeward Bound contract just be under other business.
Okay. April 6th minutes. Okay. And then other business. Okay.
And I can mention that the March 29th minutes will have to be bumped to the next meeting.
Okay. I think that's fine. Homeward Bound. Okay. The usual overview of Zoom meeting operation and procedures. Let's make sure everyone is muted, and we'll ask to unmute if someone needs to speak. Public forum. If anyone has anything to mention or to share comments on that's not already on the agenda, please do so here. Let me know if anyone wants to be part of the public forum. Don't see anybody or hear anybody. All righty. Regular business. First up is the Harvest Festival proposal with Meredith and Rob Carter from Addison County Chamber of Commerce.
Great, thank you guys for
Sure.
putting us up on number one on the list. So yes, Rob and I and our teams have gotten together and believe that we can host the Bristol Harvest Festival with success this year. We have gone through it and outlined the festival and kept COVID in line of organizing. So September 25th to Saturday, 10 to 4 on the town green. I did send an outline to you all, but pretty much the map that we sent in to you guys shows the vendors, traffic flow, where the bathrooms would be. The one thing that I do know that was updated was that we had asked Bruce about Park Street and putting the food vendors on there. He recommended not to do that. So Rob and I chatted and we talked about food trucks on West Street using the parking over there, which we have done in the past. So that was the most newest update from what I sent you. So hopefully by September 25th, things will be a little bit less restricted, but at this time, we've set this outline to follow the current COVID-19 guidelines. So I can go through the outline pretty quickly if you'd like, or if you had taken a look at it, you can ask me any questions pertaining to the outline.
Meredith, I do have a question about the food trucks. You know, you said West Street, you're talking about where the parking is on the other, right by the park there?
Right, so we were hoping we could do Park Street, but it's not gonna flow well. So we would like to use the West Street and use some of the parking area on that side to have the food trucks. There's 3 food trucks and they would be parked. So people would be, it would be parked on the, I guess on the outside of the lane. And so people would be accessing it from the park. And that way we could distribute the, have people lined up with space involved.
Okay, so that was one of my questions. I mean, I know you guys said you were gonna put like fencing around or whatever around the whole outside. So if they're gonna go to the food trucks, they need to come out down not Park Street, School Street and then up the sidewalks to get to the food trucks?
Actually, so because from our last conversation this morning, we would remove that boundary line on the West Street side.
Okay,
So we could have the flow coming in to the area. The
Mhm.
only real place that we'll have a boundary is between the playground and where we would host the tents. Thank you.
so you'll take the whole boundary off other than between the playground and,
Correct.
okay.
There's still, we still want to have, at this time, a general flow. So if anything does happen, we resort back to the restricted guidelines.
Yeah.
In the past, there was 74 vendors. As you can see, we've cut that, we've cut it in half. There's not 74 on here. There's about 42. And Rob's on here and he can verify how many vendors we've got on that we're planning.
Well, you show 74 numbers, but I'm assuming
Yeah.
you've missed numbers in between.
It's just because we cut and paste.
Right. I mean, my only thought is, I do think you're going to be able to do this in the fall, or when you plan on it. So if they release the restrictions some, are you going to add more vendors, or are you going to just leave it at this?
We had that conversation today, and at this point, we're going to leave it as is.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, you can tell that the way we designed it, we could add more vendors, but then you're talking a crunch time, and a lot of people have already decided what they're doing for the summer as a vendor.
Meredith, do you have options? So a quick count of the spaces with Google Satellite here. There's 27 on Park Street, 38 on West Street, and then there's 10 on School Street. So if you put it on West, aren't you, I guess you're losing spaces either way, no matter where you put it. But it seems like those are more prime spaces to lose than the ones on Park Street. Is there a way that you could put a couple food trucks facing towards the green on Park and not interrupt the flow of traffic and still have that open instead of closing Park Street?
I mean, yeah, I guess we could just set up the trucks as if we were on West Street.
Because that way you leave West open and those 38 spaces. It's a nice visible thing across the park and seeing the vendors. I mean, though having food trucks there, you'd notice that as well. And you still allow people to come down Park, go down School, and use some of the parking along there, and you're on the grass. And I don't know, looking at the map, it's hard to tell your map how close the vendors would be, and would you have to shift vendors on there because they're close to those parking spaces? If you had a food truck there, it might disrupt your flow that you're sort of imagining.
Yeah, I mean, we can shift them down. There is a space to shift them down, the vendors that are in there, like 59, 60, 61, to create a space.
Could I jump in here?
Yes, Rob.
Thanks. The reason that we've got this laid out the way it is, all of the vendors as you go up and around along Park Street, everybody faces into the green.
Right.
All the way around, they face into the green. If you had the food trucks on Park Street in the parking spaces, then the lines of people would go out into the road.
Yeah.
And you basically would be shutting off the road anyway, which the police didn't want us to do. So by having the food trucks on West Street facing toward the sidewalk, people can, those vendors are facing into the green, so there's nobody lining up behind them. And then the people can be in front of the food trucks on the main West Street sidewalk. So it's a concern about we're trying to, the highest number of people we have are in front of food trucks during meals, right? Lining up. And so we're trying to make sure that we don't have a long line crisscrossing each other and that kind of thing. So, I mean, that's, it's the second best. The best would be to close off Park Street, but either way, you've got to have people be able to line up. So that's why we put it back onto West Street. And that 2 years ago, that's where we had two of the food trucks, and the flow seemed to go pretty well.
Yeah, in the past, we have had them on Park Street, and they sort of faced, they faced toward the green and people were able to line up on the green. But are you thinking that can't happen this year because of the fencing off that you'll have?
If we eliminate the vendors that are already there on that line, and just have the food trucks there, we won't have enough vendors to pay to have the event. We're already at the bare minimum to break even.
Right, I understand. I'm just thinking in the past, we've had them and had 70 some odd people on the park. So I guess I'm just not understanding why there's not enough room to have them on Park Street and have the lines come into the park. I'm just,
I mean, I think if you were to do it on Park Street and you put like a fence behind the vendor trucks to force people to stay in towards the park, then you probably won't have that problem. I mean, I don't know that I care whether it's on West Street or Park Street. But I'm just saying, if you wanted to do it on Park Street, if you fenced in the vendors, it would hopefully keep people on the inside rather than in the road.
I mean, you're looking at probably 3 food trucks, right? Which they'd each take, if they're parking diagonally, not diagonally, but horizontally across the spaces, you're probably losing 3 spaces per truck.
Yes.
So that'd be nine spaces that you'd lose out of the 38. So there's still plenty of parking. And then it keeps it, another option I was looking at the Google satellite map here was like, could you have it in the spaces by the St. Ambrose Parish Hall where you sort of have it separate, but then you're kind of a distance away from the main happenings of the event.
And we're also trying to eliminate we're trying to have a more controlled event that doesn't include the play area.
Okay.
So that, if people bring their kids to the play area, they're responsible for them, and we're sort of keeping our area more controlled.
Okay.
But if we did have it on Park Street and had them in the parking, we'd have to eliminate some of these current vendors. That's the only challenge, is then where do we put them?
Right. Okay.
I don't know that you would have to eliminate them. Because there's, behind all those vendors, there's the posts. So they're not going to be right back up against the post. So to me, there's still enough room between, if you park the vendor trucks back there, there's still room.
Well, the lines of people would then be forming in between the other vendors. And that then causes your closeness, lack of
right.
safe distance.
But can you maybe separate some of the vendors a little farther away to lead a pathway for the people to go through for each vendor? I mean, I don't know. I'm just.
Yeah, it's possible. It's sort of in trying to keep this thing at the current safety, the flow of traffic comes, you see that black line and then the little dash line that comes up and along.
Yep.
Then you've got the vendor lines cutting in the middle of the flow of people.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just trying to avoid those blockages.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I don't care whether you do it on Park or West.
Any other questions for Meredith or Rob?
Yeah, Meredith, the last time you had it, obviously wasn't last year, was the back of the park. Didn't you close off the back of the park for safety?
No.
It's never been
The only
closed.
time it's been closed, I think, is for the Halloween trunk or treat. Maybe that's the only thing I can think of that was.
At July 4th, they might have had it closed off.
Maybe July 4th. If Ted's on, maybe he can tell us yes or no. I was just wondering why Bruce's decision was not to close the park, and then you could park up there. I'm just worried about people coming through the food truck in West Street traffic. And if you put the food trucks there, all the people who want to come to the festival in and out on West Street won't have enough places to park on West Street. There's a lot of good parking there.
Yeah, I agree.
You're losing 9 spaces. That's what we're figuring.
I mean, for safety reasons, wouldn't it? I mean, people are walking from down North Street down through the alley by the old high school. Wouldn't it behoove us to maybe look at closing the park for the afternoon? That's Park Street. We've done it before. I'd like to, if Bruce is on, I'd like to know the reasoning why he thinks we'll keep the Park Street open.
He's on. You're muted, Bruce.
That's better if I could use that. So looking at parks, if part of it was they wanted to use School Street as two-way traffic. School Street with parking is not wide enough for two-way traffic. And it becomes confusing to people that are not from the area, whether or not they can go down that street. And then when you do get onto School Street, it's limited as far as how far back you can get. And then people will start trying to turn around. If there's too much traffic, it's just going to be overwhelming. That's my biggest thing. And I just think it's too confusing. And if you're going to have a lot of people walking back and forth, we don't need to add confusion with traffic.
Bruce, what if we closed off both entrances just for fire or ambulance or police to close off School Street on the corner west by the church and up by the Bobber's house?
If you're closing off the entire area, I'm not opposed to that. We just lose the ability for people to park on Park Street. So if somebody comes and they're there for an hour or so and then they want to leave, that would open up a parking space for somebody else that's coming. As you all know, parking is a premium around the green. So I was trying to think about leaving as many parking spaces available for people as they come and go.
We would lose a lot of parking.
You'd lose 28 spaces if you closed off park and
Cool.
school, and that includes having the food trucks over on park because they take up 9, and then there are 28 that you would lose by closing those two roads.
So that's 28 parking spaces that somebody's going to look elsewhere to park, and we don't have them.
Yeah.
Well, but you're going to have how many vendors, Meredith? 40, 34, 42, 45? And the ones on the back of the park are probably going to use those spots to park in and vendor out of or set up their booths. Are they going to move or take up the park? I'm just trying to say if they got in, the old saying, once you get in, you stay in. We close it off after the festival starts just some thoughts here I'm running through by everybody.
Are vendors asked to move their vehicles? They used to be asked to move their vehicles after they set up.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely try to do that. And we could encourage any that park to park on Park Street, west of the food trucks and leave West Street open. I mean, it's,
Well, you have options so for Pocock, when that happens, we ask vendors to park behind Community Bank because it's closed at that time.
Yeah.
Which would be the same for you guys.
Yeah, we do that as well.
We've also used the space behind where the old Mountain Greens building is. The Wells allowed us to park cars there. And you might be able to do that. Given the number of vendors, they obviously, we have maybe about 30 vendors. So you do have more. But I would say, if you can get them off the park, just so you can keep as many spaces. Because I do think that, as Bruce said, the flow of people is important. People coming in and may not want to stay for a huge amount of time. That's when that person leaves, that space opens up. So, I actually like the West Street, I think seems fine. You do lose some spots, but you still have a lot of parking there. It's fairly safe because you're on the sidewalk, stepping to the green space to get your food, and then you're back onto the sidewalk again and not having to cross into roads and things like that, which is kind of nice.
I wonder, those food trucks are usually a fairly long van, large red van, they're going to be sticking out and going to narrow that up. One of those things I worry about also.
Is it possible? Is it possible to have Park Street be one way towards School Street so that they flow through and out School Street and still keep parking available on Park Street?
Well, parking
It's
is
only one
That's how
way.
it is.
one way now.
Yeah.
It's
all
one way.
okay.
Could we, Valerie, approve this tonight with maybe they come back with a new drawing that doesn't have 74 spots in it and it has the 42 and you kind of.
This has 45 spots. It's just, we haven't renumbered them yet.
Yeah.
That's all. But there's 45 boxes and we have an extra large box for Art on Main over by itself.
Oh, okay.
That's almost 3 spots to make sure they can still do their event. Yeah, all we did was.
You use last year's or the years before, and then
we
we're
just pulled
adjusting
out
it.
Meredith and Rob, was there any thought of, I'll just pick 4 numbers there, 59 through 62, is moving them in somewhere around a gazebo, somewhere maybe facing 24 through 21, and maybe putting the 3 or 4 food trucks up there? Putting a line right in there, Rob, of those 4, bring them right down here and have them, so you're kind of walking, just throwing some ideas out. Don't know.
Okay, and move the 59 to 62 in order to what, have the food trucks there?
Yes.
We could, we can adjust.
Maybe
We can
right-
loosen up that line and move some of them to another location.
They can go maybe south of the sidewalk and east of the gazebo, right in that area there.
Right, that's where we used to have them. Yeah, so we could, and reality is that things are gonna be loosening up. By the time we do our event, there actually will be no gathering limits at all by July 4th. It'll be 900 by June 1st. So, I think we're gonna have a little bit more freedom, so we certainly could move some of them in order to have the food trucks on Park Street, but have the people come into the green as opposed to out into the road. We'd have to do some moving around a little bit, and we could send that final map back to you.
Jill, what's your main concern? What worries you the most?
The food trucks are, they're a big, call them a WB Mason truck, like those we see deliver, and the bakery trucks that deliver over to the Shaws. Those are quite long, and those parking spots on West Street towards the street are probably in the neighborhood of 20 feet, and those vans are more like 28, 25. And I'm worried about them sticking out into the road, and then what that happens, somebody headed west, not going by, not stopping, just going by, are going to wander over the yellow line, and it's a busy day there.
Well, the thought also is have those food trucks parked horizontal along those parkway. So they're taking up 3 spaces because they're going across the parking.
Parallel to the sidewalk.
Correct.
Yeah.
And right up.
Because usually food trucks, their serving area is on the side of the truck, not the back. So, that's why we're thinking about that each one of them is going to take up, instead of sticking out into traffic, they'll actually be much less than a car length.
Okay, I see
but
where
it just takes up 3 spaces.
Yeah.
So
it's going to take up more than 3, I would think, at least 3.
yeah, at least 3.
Yeah. And they pull up tight to the curb too, so that the people can stand on the grass and still get their food, can reach them.
Yeah.
They don't have to step down onto the road or anything. That's what we've done before anyway.
Okay.
But certainly Park Street is doable, facing in to the green if we, rework that line of vendors.
Oh, Rob, maybe you do 1 in the back, 2 in the front. I mean, I don't know, if you like to keep them all together or if you like to separate them, but that may be an option too.
I do like the idea of having a sort of a food area.
Okay.
We're talking about the ones that serve meals.
Yep.
And that way it's somewhat more controlled environment to have them all together. That's all. Ordinarily, we would have the food, some of the food vendors down the center sidewalk. That's what we usually do. But the problem we have, because we know we already have it, is that we end up with a line all the way down the center sidewalk. And so this year we're trying to avoid that, to avoid congestion. So that's why we're making all the meal food trucks be at one place.
So the food trucks are really going to start at that corner right there, just west of number 10, right in that red corner, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to be way down by the garden, because that's out of the area.
Oh, right. Yeah, they'll be up closer to the intersection.
Across almost from the post, yeah. The back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll keep them together so that the parking is all open together. They're not breaking up the parking in that way.
Well, they would have to, Rob.
Yeah.
Going to break up the parking.
Well, what I mean is we wouldn't have a food cart and then have a couple of spots.
Oh, yes.
And then
I see.
Yeah, they would be nose to nose.
Yeah, I like the West Street just in terms of a safety perspective, where you have the sidewalk, where you have standing area for people either to line up or take their food and move off safely, versus the park where you don't really have that because there's no sidewalk there. You're relying on just the park area. So I'm in favor of the West Street. I think that's fine, but it
I-
depends on what everyone else.
Well, I'm in favor of now, Ian, knowing that they're gonna serve off the side. Some food trucks,
Okay,
if they serve off the
Oh,
back,
definitely.
they'll be sticking out, and maybe you'll have to find that out, which side of this they serve out of.
okay. Peeker, do you have any thoughts?
He was on.
He's there. Can't hear him though.
Try that. Is that better?
Yep,
That's
yeah, gotcha.
I heard all the conversation. I think you've arrived at a good end.
Okay. All right, someone like to make a motion.
I will. I'll make a motion to approve and pending any change in COVID restrictions, worse or better, so they can fix either way.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion is second. Any more questions?
Now, just to be clear, is that for just West Street food vendors or flexibility, or what was the outcome there?
I think just west, right?
That's fine with me.
Well, we
All
appreciate
right.
that.
Thank you very much.
Sure. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for working on that, guys. It's gonna be nice to get that back.
Yes, it's, everyone I think is looking forward to being able to get back together as a community. So thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Brad.
All right. I know I'm on the next part.
Yeah,
of-
you're on again. Let me
All
just
right.
get to the thing here.
The Human Power Parade.
Yeah,
All right, so we are planning on having the Human Power Parade Saturday, May 22nd. The timing is 10 to 2 with a more of a self-guided parade on the street. Now, let me see here if I can pull up my form. Wrong one.
Meredith, by self-guided, you mean folks wouldn't be going all together? They just go, it'd be
That
a suggested riding route for the day?
That is correct. So we're going to take the same route that we had in the past, in like 2 years ago. And for those folks who are coming into town, they can park at the rec field, they can decorate their bike, and they pretty much go on their own adventure. But we'd ask, to go through cut through by the horse ring, go down Pleasant Street, head over to BES, and at BES we'll have a couple of the rails, the rollies that we have at the skate park that'll be over there, and then they make their way back. And a lot of these folks actually live in town, so they'll be going out from their house. But folks that are coming out of town, they can park at the rec field and get their bikes or scooters or whatever they have to cruise around. So that's the map right there. Now I know in the
Okay.
past, some of the concerns were volunteers and traffic. So in this part, because it's a self-guided tour, people really shouldn't be in their groups unless they're, it's their pods of family. It'll be hard for us to figure out who's been vaccinated and who hasn't. So that's another reason why it's going to be self-guided. I know in the past that we had Bruce helping us out, but in this way, because it's self-guided, we'll have volunteers throughout the places, especially on Pleasant Street, just being there and talking to folks. We'll have a couple of rocks that people collect on the way, and they take them to BES and they set them out in a peace sign. Actually, we might even just do that over at the rec field. There's no vendors at this event because it is May and it's still COVID restriction. And there'll be a couple of folks who will have music playing out in their front yard, but that's based on their own participation. a few people live on those streets that want to have something going on, which is pretty cool.
Meredith, so I remember 2 years ago, you went over to Autumn Harpsole building.
Yep.
That's now not going to happen. You're going right straight to the school.
Nope, sorry. So this is, it shows that you go up there. And that spot right there. We might be doing a chalk presentation. So you'll have chalk and you can write out resiliency, peace, keywords that mean what human powered represents to oneself. So that's going to be there on that kind of pavement area. And then there was pretty much, yeah. So
over Maple and up Pleasant to Taylor and up Taylor Avenue, or over Elm and to the up north again.
Right. Yeah, because when you see that, it's a straight shot all the way back to the rec field after you've gone to BES.
Right.
The intention, if I can cut in, so the intention for the parade is basically we're going to ask community members to help decorate their yards and their houses, similar to the encouragement on putting out lights over the winter, and so people can go around and experience and appreciate the lights. We're going to encourage community members to create things with the idea of resilience, because we definitely think that's a useful theme for this spring and after the pandemic. And the board, the human power, those that have been planning it, we're intent to have a couple of different installations along the route, but they're all going to be kind of, you can engage with it. And so like Meredith mentioned, over at BES, there's going to be an obstacle course that people can ride through. And we'll have a volunteer that's there helping people and making sure that has a medical kit also in case anything goes awry. The goal is really for people to, be able to experience it at their own pace by themselves, and maybe for multiple days. Maybe while it'll be mainly happening on one day, perhaps we can get people to have things out in their yards, posters or pictures or whatever they are, for a couple of days, so people can appreciate and kind of welcome the spring back as we reopen. And it's going to be like kind of, I also will be having, since it's not going to be one big group, we're going to have a kind of follow the yellow brick road, as you will, or like cookie crumbs along, so people do know how the route does go and how to follow it appropriately, so they're not going down streets that would be unsafe, and they are following the ideal route.
So, Meredith, is the person on the corner, the busy corner, North and Pleasant and Spring, those are going to be volunteers, and are definitely going to have a vest on, traffic vest?
So those are definite key places for volunteers.
In the Taylor North section.
Yep. So we're going to request that we have about 10 volunteers specifically for the route. And if I can find enough orange jerseys, that they'll be wearing those.
So Meredith, quick question. You were talking about chalk. That's only going to be happening either at the Pine Street location or at the school. They're not doing that along the route on the road, because I think last year, well, it wasn't last year, a couple of years ago, they were doing that. And we were like, no, we don't want them in the road.
There has been, we have had conversations about the safety issue of that. And so we've suggested, and we brought it up, that you can't really be in the road itself drawing, so draw on the sidewalk.
Okay.
Or draw chalk at the BES or at the whatever that, oh, I can't remember, wherever the Mountain Health is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It still works.
Thank you.
You've consulted with Bruce. I mean, I know he's not involved as he was the last time, but he didn't have any issues.
Yeah, so I sent Bruce 2 maps of this was before we went to self-guided. I said, which ones do you suggest? And he likes the original one. So we're definitely using the original for the self-guided tour.
Okay.
But any feedback that he, the biggest thing from Bruce, and I know he's on here, is the volunteers being in the right place
Yeah.
at the right time and being seen.
Right, because if it's a self-guided, you don't know when stuff's happening really, and so they have to be there out there for the 2 hours that your event is taking place.
Yeah, so 11 to 1 is really the time of things that are happening, and
Right.
but people can go before that or after that. But 11 to 1 is the time that we the volunteers.
Today we're going to take a look at the Reese Elite Series Thunderbird rail adapter for standard fifth wheel.
Okay. Any other questions from the select board or from the public? No, seeing none. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve this?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second. Any other questions? Seeing none. Do we have some votes?
I'm gonna say all those in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Meredith.
Great, thank you. And if
Thank
anybody
you.
does have any questions, please send me an email or call the office. I'd be happy to answer any.
Is this something that you see the rec department doing year to year? Since it started as sort of like a public project, now it seems like the rec department's involved. Will you continue to do this, do you think?
Yeah, so this is the transition year. We're still working with Melanie, but we'll be taking it over from here. And
Okay.
this is more like a place setter event, the way we've got it set up. So hopefully next year we'll have the vendors, we'll have the route, we'll shut the streets down. It'll be game on.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, do you want to take
Sure,
over?
I'm back up and running. My only problem
Okay.
is my agenda is kind of spotty, so I might need a little bit of help there.
Sure.
Town Green Park use application, American Legion Memorial Day celebration, May 31st, 2021. And if I'm not mistaken, this is just for conversation. Was this approved by Meredith?
I do approve it because of the happenings of last year. I just want to make sure that the select board knows that it's a go. We definitely will be below the numbers of gathering at that time. But I just wanted to make sure everybody was on board and knew what was going on.
This is also an opportunity to promote the event and to let folks know that it's planned.
Motion, we approve back Meredith's suggestion of have the parade, or no parade, have the memorial ceremony.
I don't think we need to have a motion to approve it. She's already approved the use. It's just a conversations piece for us so that we know what's happening and
Because of the issues last year we had, so.
yeah. I mean, it was kind of a mess last year because they said up to 200 people and the governor had said no. And so we said no, and they ended up not doing anything, I believe. So
Right.
it'll be good to have them back there.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, and we're hopefully in a better place, especially with vaccinations, to be able to have gatherings of people.
So hearing no objections, thanks for keeping us up to date, Meredith, and we'll
Yeah.
move on.
Great,
Great.
thank you, guys.
Sure, thank you.
Holley Hall bell tower repair and bell refurbishing update.
All right, well, if folks had a chance to glance at my notes, you'll see that the bell has been removed and it is being stored over on Garfield Street. The carriage has been refurbished. The structural engineer did visit the structure on Friday. She would like opportunity to come back and have a closer look at the area underneath in the ceiling under where the bell will sit, so that she can just make sure that there's enough stability under there. There's one reason she wants to take a closer look is because of the one of the beams or rafters has a live edge on it, and she wants to be able to take a closer look to see what kind of shape it's in and whether it needs to be supported from the side, which she said can be done from underneath, and that the repair to the floor of the bell tower can happen, it can proceed. However, whichever way the select board wants to go forward on that. So that is the situation on that. And so the next question would be what method does the select board want to pursue for actually having the floor repaired and caulked and sealed and all of that? And also I should add that I did share the proposal with her that we received and to get her opinion if she felt that it was suitable, appropriate, and all that. And she has not had a chance to review that and get back to us.
What's your pleasure?
So I might like to get her opinion on that proposal.
Mhm.
It was the only proposal we had, correct?
Correct. And Joel's visit with Kevin,
Right.
the original installer. And Joel, do you recall if Kevin had a different proposal in mind, or were they pretty similar?
I didn't read Roosters because I thought we kind of held off yet. So I didn't really devote a lot of time to it.
Okay.
Kevin, he could resolder the joints that are there and then epoxy the entire roof and probably get minimum of 20 to 25 years out of it. And he would build up the epoxy in the corners, those pictures I sent you. He would build up that epoxy so the water wouldn't sit in those corners, it would go off the ends.
What variety of epoxy is being used?
What's that, Ted?
What variety of epoxy is going to be used? Epoxy
I don't-
is pretty, can be broken pretty easily. And what Rooster is planning on using has a real nice coefficient of expansion.
Kevin did use that word. I didn't get into it. What was, we took some pictures. He took the pictures because I wasn't allowed up there. And I went and stuck my head up through the hole and that was it. And I said we'd get back with him, but he wanted to look at where the cracks were, and that's what was separating the solder joints.
The solder joints are not separated.
There's cracks there.
It's a lapped fitting that is knocked down flat and then soldered. There's
Right.
really no way for water to get in there.
But there's some, I'll send you the pictures, Ted.
I don't need pictures. I've been up there already.
Well, I have two.
And
There's
lately.
there's
I
definitely
thought you
cracks
couldn't get
there.
up there.
What's that?
I thought you couldn't get up there.
I got up there as far as my waist. I saw them all, Ted. Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna wait and review both proposals and go from there, or let,
Kevin Paterni did not give us a proposal. He just gave me some ideas that did he say he would even do it? We didn't get that far.
Okay.
Just asked him to look at it and to see.
We have roosters, and and it seems that Ted is fairly, he's okay with roosters quote. I think, Ted, you've seen that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think it'd be nice to have the structural engineer review that if she's able to, and just get some feedback. Maybe we could make a motion on just, approval from her that we would go ahead and have Rooster do it. And I know, as per our discussions last time, there aren't a lot of people able to do this at this time. And this is something that needs to get done.
Ted, what's his time frame like?
Who?
Uh,
Rooster?
yeah,
Chris, I have no idea.
I think he was prepared to work on it fairly quickly.
Okay.
Last time I talked with him, he was all up in arms. He had to keep moving on some other projects. So I don't really know.
Right.
Okay.
Because I think that's another thing that's going to be key here is being able to get it done in a timely manner, at least this season, and get the bell back up there by winter, I would think. I mean, unless everybody's okay with it sitting on the ground through the winter, which I don't think is a good idea.
Well, and that's another part of this agenda item is refurbishment of the bell. There are a couple of options. The traditional rubbing of the bell which is just described as an abrasive method, but it's not really abrasive, it's just rubbing. And then there's the possibility of a chemical solution, a bronze cleaning solution. And if the select board has any preference or concerns about either approach, and then presuming that the bell does get cleaned, then does the select board support the idea of displaying it in front of Holley Hall before it gets reinstalled up in the bell tower after the floor's been repaired, which could be right up until July 4th. It could be right around July 4th. So it's a display item, or unless the select board's priority is to have the bell installed by July 4th so that it's operational and ringing on the holiday.
Well, that's a pretty ambitious schedule with the way everything is right now, not knowing who we're going to have available and if we're going to have to do any work up and underneath it.
Right.
I mean, I personally don't have a problem with chemicals, but I think the bell is old enough, so we probably ought to refurbish it the way they were refurbished in the past. That would be my preference.
It would only be polishing it. Every other part of that bell has been redone, and it's sitting in my shop right now. Every single part except for the bronze part of the bell. And the bronze part of the bell is discolored, as you would be discolored too if you lived up there for 130 years.
So what's
my question was, do you want it to shine? And there are a couple of ways to do it. One of them is a mild abrasive, and the other one is to chemically remove the stuff on the outside, including paint and poop.
Ted, do you have a preference?
Yeah, I'd rather do it chemically. I went online and found a solution that will make bronze look like bronze again.
But the thing with bronze is if nobody's walking by rubbing it, in a few years' time, it's going to be right back to what it is now.
Yep. The only reason I was thinking that we would make it shine is so that we could put it on display and the people of the town could see what it looks like, because otherwise nobody sees it.
Right. They just hear it.
Yep.
So with the hand buffing, the level of shine is nowhere near what it would be if you use the chemicals?
No, it would be fine. Both
Okay.
of them are fine.
This one's a lot easier than the other, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And if billing by the hour, it might, have a consequence there.
You could do it by the job.
Longer.
Yeah.
What's your pleasure?
I really like the idea of having it displayed every time. I think that's a really nice idea. I mean, I worked underneath it for a number of years and never, I went up to look at it a couple times, but did I really stop and take time to, to admire it? I didn't. And I think a lot of folks have not had that opportunity. So I think that would be really nice. As far as the shine, I would really, I don't have a preference one way or the other. I think, Ted, if you're doing the job, I would leave that into your discretion myself.
Well, I wouldn't mind getting the paint and the poop off it.
Yeah.
Poop removal is a great idea.
Ted, do we have so in terms of displaying it, do you have an idea of how it might be securely displayed there?
We'll put it on the lawn of Holley Hall and put
Okay.
a trail camera up there so that people would be dissuaded from abusing it.
Would it be on a platform or anything like that?
It could be up on some sort of a platform, yeah.
Okay.
Whatever you want.
I mean,
Meredith
theft
and
is
I
probably,
just thought it would be a nice thing for the
Yeah.
people of the town to see, because all
Yeah.
they do is listen to it.
right. No, I think it's a great idea. And it's probably, theft is probably a low priority given its
Not
weight.
talking about theft, I'm talking about abuse. We have
Oh,
had
I
that
see.
happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna put it on display and leave it out, that it should be there through the 4th, because that's when the most
Yeah.
people are gonna see it. And like I said, I think it's a pretty ambitious schedule to try to have it back in the tower by the 4th. So if we're gonna get it cleaned and displayed, I would say leave it out. And there should be some sort of verbiage that tells what it is and how long
Yeah.
it's been there. That somebody curious walking by could read.
That's real easy to do.
Okay. Great.
So
Are we
I guess what I'd do is entertain a motion to, if everybody's okay with it, have it cleaned by a manner at Ted's discretion
Yep.
and displayed at least until after the 4th of July.
I think that's
What
fine.
we
As
were
long as the
talking-
chemical, go on, Ted. No,
What we were talking about today is reassembling the bell and reassembling its carriage, because we're going to need a crane in order to move it back downtown anyway. So put it all back together, have Randy come pick it up and put it on the lawn of Holley Hall. And in that way, we can also make sure that the repaired parts, the wooden repaired parts and so on, still work the way they did before the bell was taken out.
So so we don't have a motion yet, but when we do, when would we like to see this on display? How soon? What's your time frame like, Ted?
No, all we have to do is clean it and reassemble it, and you can have it, next week. I'm being,
do you want to do like May 1st?
I think that would let it set there probably 2.5 months. So
Yeah.
that would give ample time for everybody to get a good look at it. So let's have a motion so we can move on here.
Or May 1st is Saturday. Yeah. So whenever. So before I make the motion, because since we're dealing with two separate things, you want two motions, one for the bell and having it put where it is, and one for the construction side of it?
construction.
Yeah, we never really finished up the construction end of it.
Yeah.
I think we were, aren't
In,
we?
in
waiting
terms of the
aren't we
construction
waiting
of the,
for Knights to come back and with a recommendation on the inside?
well, in terms of, speed, I was wondering if we can just say on the condition that the Knights approves or thinks it's okay in terms of that proposal, and then we could go ahead and Val could get that moving as opposed to waiting 2 weeks to do that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
So it
Unless
would be two separate.
Unless you want to wait and see if we get a proposal from,
Kevin.
You're not gonna get a proposal from Kevin unless you ask for it, and I'm pretty sure Jolie didn't ask him to give him a proposal.
right?
I say we stick with that one then. They wanted to do it. I like the detail of it. Ted seems happy with them doing it. And Ted has a lot of experience with this. So I'd say, I'll make a motion to hire Rooster to with their contract with the stipulation that it's approved by our Knights structural engineering.
How expensive is this Knights engineering business going to be? I know that there was, what, $600 or something like that. And now Knights wants us to take the lath off the ceiling in the room that has the Howard Clockworks in it, and do something else and do this. And if you go partway up the stairs to where the bell sits and sight across the ceiling of the room underneath where the bell sits, the ceiling is perfectly flat. It's been that way. That bell has sat there for 130 years, and it has not done anything to the ceiling. The ceiling has no sag in it at all. And what I'm wondering is, why do we keep beating this horse? There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with the structure, with the exception of it leaking. And that leaked from day one, by the way. That entire bell tower, when it was finished in 1884, was done in slate. And it leaked from day one. And I actually have pictures of them taking the slate off the tower and enclosing the tower in metal. So a lot of the damage and a lot of the damage being the plaster fell down is ancient. We found absolutely no rot up in there. A moisture meter reading everywhere that we checked was 10% or less. You can't even buy lumber that is 10%. You buy it at 19. I mean, it's I don't understand what the problem is here. Why we have to keep throwing money at this when there doesn't seem to be a problem.
Well, I think the idea is as long as the bell's out of there, we want to make sure there's not a problem. And I just,
And I don't believe it's additional money, right, Val? It's part of that 600.
Well, this would be in addition to come back, because that's
Oh, okay.
the initial site visit plus a follow-up report.
Okay.
Before we get sidetracked, can we make a motion on the bell first? And then go back to this?
I'll make a motion that we have the bell cleaned and reassembled and displayed in front of Holley Hall beginning May 1st.
I'll second.
further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried.
I mean, I'm not sure that I mean, I'm kind of with Ted. I'm not sure that I want them taking things apart in there. You know,
The only concern is the live edge on one of the floor trusses or floor.
Yeah.
One of the floor joists has a live edge on it. And actually, in trade magazines, there have been articles about how much stronger a supporting member with a live edge is because the part of the tree that it's taken from. I don't understand this concern with live edge. It's used all the time. Secondly, you couldn't even see the framing up in there until Alex and I got up in there and started tearing lath down. You couldn't, there is no obvious damage. Anywhere where we were asked to open it up, any pictures showed black stuff. Yeah, there we go.
This is where she wants it opened up.
Yeah.
To look, because there's a live edge up under here. She looked in this corner over here. She looked in this corner over here and this corner over here. And the moisture meter was below 15. But she wants to be able to look up in here where the bell's going to sit.
she can't do that from above.
No,
No.
no.
And she said if it looks as though the live edge has been compromised in some way, it can be sistered somehow from below.
Again, the ceiling is perfectly flat.
Looks really curved from here.
That's the dome view.
Right.
Yeah.
And she also said that the lath doesn't have any structural purpose.
It doesn't, and neither does the strapping that is applied to the lath. That was a result of putting staple up ceiling panels, and
Right.
a subsequent leak took them down too.
Over time.
So the question is, this is a building on the historic register. If we take that lath down, is that what has to go back?
No,
Oh, man.
it doesn't have to go back. No federal dollars are being used on this project.
But it doesn't change it
No,
doesn't change the listing of the building at all.
no, not at all. Not at all.
A real concern is taking that lath down with that Howard Clockworks underneath it. There's got to be some kind of major protection for that.
And there's no sign of any water damage. You said there's no settling, there's no,
Right. There are black marks where there have been leaks in the past on the framing lumber. You stab it with a screwdriver and there's no deterioration at all. She did it, I did it, and we found no deterioration. She took pictures down the joist bays. There was no obvious deterioration. I just don't understand. The biggest clue is that the ceiling is flat. There is no sagging. There is no obvious problem from having that bell up there for 130 years, which is in excess of 1,000 pounds, and it's a point load. It isn't distributed. It's centered all over one little area in the ceiling. Yes. I'd say they did a real good job building it.
they certainly knew what they were doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's your pleasure?
I'm thinking that maybe she doesn't need to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think she needs to come back. I'd still like her to have her review the proposal on the, I don't know, roof, ceiling, whatever you want to call it there, underneath the underside of the bell, the upper side of that area. But I don't really see any reason to go looking for something that there's no reason to go looking for it. Jolie, what are your thoughts? You're muted.
Yeah. Ted's absolutely right. There's no deflection in that ceiling sagging. That part of that ceiling before they took it all down, show the lath. When I saw it a month ago with Kevin, that was like that in 82 when he did the block and solder roof and I did the railings. We did that in 1982. And I didn't see any deflection then. If you wanted to do something, maybe you could sister between the joists on that, but Ted's right on the live load. They're actually stronger because that's the side of the tree or the outside of the tree. I think we're throwing money just down to an engineer. I mean, Light Knights are good company, don't get me wrong. But I think if we had that sealed, re-prepped and sealed, that metal roof up there, I think we'd be fine. I'd like to know a little more information on the slate though, before I vote. It said here about the slate.
Are we even talking about the slate? We're just talking
Not
about.
yet.
That's the next
Yeah.
item.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay. It
I
did,
also gave that the 205 test, which was me jumping around on the floor with no deflection whatsoever.
Yeah.
I jumped all over the thing, and we didn't even lose any plaster from the underside. It's real solid.
Yeah.
and let me tell you,
You haven't got the bill yet for the 205 test, have you?
So Ted, tell me what happens if the 205 test had failed.
Well, you could ask
On
Brown
top of the
McClay.
clockworks.
Ask Brown McClay.
and finding less than 20% moisture in those things is not uncommon. As Ted says, lumber coming out of the kiln down to Johnson probably is in the 10 to 12 to 15%.
You buy it at 19.
Right. You can put paint on it at 20, 25. So.
She also noted that the area seems pretty well ventilated.
It's that all right.
Okay,
All right.
so do we have a motion to go ahead with the rooster construction? Did I make that? I can't remember.
So hold up, so
Pending
we're gonna,
night.
we're gonna opt out of we don't need a motion. We're gonna opt out of having her come back and look at that ceiling. Am I correct? Is consensus on that?
Yes.
Everybody's nodding?
Yes.
Yes.
But are we going to
Consensus
have
on
a
that.
look at Rooster's proposal?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And did we get more than one? Just, how did we come about with Rooster? Where'd that recommendation come from? I don't even know the person, so doesn't matter.
He
Just,
does excellent work.
They're the
Okay.
only ones that responded
oh, okay,
to
okay.
numerous inquiries from area
Oh, okay.
inspectors and
And
other
you're
folks.
lucky, he is top of the line.
I'm fine with that then. Ted recommends him, I'm fine with it. Then.
Okay.
All
Ted,
right.
is he someone that has done work in the past on the roof? Is he the same contractor we had before?
I don't recall him doing any of the slate. I've used him for slate work,
Okay.
but I don't think he did any work on the on Holley Hall.
Okay.
I also know that he is looking at the slate roof over on the library.
Okay.
because that's in weak shape as well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right.
So is that it for 4? And I cannot read 5. I don't know. I got a line through it and I have no idea what it says.
Consider steps to address Holley Hall slate roof repair concerns.
But going back to night number 4, Ian had made a motion to accept Rooster Construction's proposal for the bell tower roof repair pending Knight's feedback.
Correct.
Correct.
Michelle seconded that, I think, or maybe Darla did.
And we never voted on that?
Not yet.
Let's vote on that.
Yes, let's do that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Peter, I'm going to abstain just because I haven't read Rooster's thing. I apologize. I should have done my homework, but I haven't.
Well, it's with Knight's approval. It's not.
Okay. All right, then. I just don't know because Ted talked about epoxy and I don't know. The two, Kevin and Rooster, might be talking about the same epoxy. We don't know. All he said was the word you could epoxy this. So that's all I'm saying. But let's get it done.
All right, we good to go now, Valerie?
Rooster is not using epoxy.
All right, on to the slate.
Yeah.
Somebody talk to me.
So hopefully folks had a chance to see the information about the slate. I'm going to try to share this again here. See how this goes. So there's a loose shingle here, or whatever you call it. And there's concern that if and when it comes down, it'll cause damage along the way. And so ideally, it would be good to be able to coordinate the repair of the roof with the repair of the bell tower, since both are likely to require a lift of some sort.
I thought it was in your job description that you'd take care of that, Valerie.
It's out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I would agree. If he's going to be there and he's good with slate, that would be the time to fix it.
So we have one there. Are there any others loose that we know of around the roof?
I am not familiar with the roof's repair history or condition.
Okay. Ted, do you know?
I haven't seen any, but while you have the lift there, it'd be a real good time to
Yes.
look around.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ted's
Great.
absolutely right. Let's have the whole roof inspected at least visually while you got a lift there.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Another, sorry, this is Meredith. Another option would be maybe a drone drive-by.
That's true.
Is there a problem with a valley somewhere? Or did we get that taken care of?
Not sure. Not sure. It almost looks like the water is leaking down into the rec department from someplace other than the bell tower.
I thought we had this roof worked on not too long ago.
Yep, and as I said before, that's what happens when you go for the lowest bidder. There are some errors.
The biggest one could have been the last bidder could have walked on it. And, you know, you repair 3 and you might break 2 getting there.
It looks to me like some of the leakage is actually in a valley, which is not slate. It's copper.
So I think we need to have that all inspected while they're there, where they can get a good look at it. Have we got a price from the same gentleman to do this work as well?
Nope, this is the first we're talking about it.
Okay. So I guess when we hear back from Knights, if we end up going with them, we have them look at that as well. Is it in their wheelhouse? Ted, you said he does slate?
Yes, and he did extensive repairs on the Dyke House up on the corner of Maple and Pleasant. Beautiful work. Really, really nice work.
So are we clear with that, or do you need more?
I'm good. The select board has the discretion to single source repairs, you know, certain procurements, and especially in situations where there are limited options.
Well, the people that work on slate roofs and the people you want working on slate roofs are few and far between. So if we've got one that Ted says is good, I trust his judgment when it comes to that. We're ready to move on then?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Addison County Community Trust request to modify property agreement for a refinancing loan through the Vermont Housing Finance Agency.
Now it looks as though Elise must have logged off to join another meeting.
I'm here.
Yep, she's here.
Oh, she's
Oh,
back.
you're back. Oops.
Took me 10 minutes and you were still talking about parking by the time I got back.
Okay, I didn't see you there.
We love our parking talking.
Yep, nothing like parking to keep a select board engaged.
We're just gonna build a big parking garage and end all our problems.
We haven't been able to build covered parking since 2007. Sorry.
So at least the select board has seen the proposed documents. Guess I'll open it up to questions.
So let me understand this, that the original amount, the original loan, 325, was that a grant that the town was handling, or was it truly a loan that the town had given?
Well, so it was funds that were granted from VCDP to Bristol, which Bristol then subloaned out for ACCT, most likely to acquire KTP.
Right.
So now now VCDP doesn't even structure things this way. I believe when we will be coming to you hopefully for Firehouse Apartments at some time in the not too distant future, that will actually be sub-granted to us as opposed to sub-loaned. But there are funds from VCDP that are given to municipalities for specific projects. So like we applied to acquire KTP and VCDP just passes the money through the municipality. So they kind of end up getting, so if funds ever come back to the town, like if we were to sell the park, which we can't ever do because we have to keep it permanently affordable, that's the VHCB covenant. That's, I think, in number 2 on the new priority agreement. But, you know, if we were to, I don't know, find a lot of money somewhere, any money that came back to the town would have to be used for basically the same purpose for affordable housing. And I'm doing not as good a job explaining this as Cassie Bell from VCDP could. But that's why typically, you know, it was rolled over in 2016 or 2017, I guess, for another 20 years. There's, you know, KTP does not have $325,000 to pay it back. So the town rolled it over and it just kind of sits on your books. And I think the only requirement is that we provide you with a copy of our audit annually.
Every year. Yep.
Yeah, every year.
I have to file a certification every year.
file certification every year. So if you would like to not have the administrative burden of doing the file certification every year, you could just choose to forgive the loan. What we're asking tonight is actually just to sign the priority agreement, because I think it would take a little bit more. We would have to apply to VCDP for them to sign off on the forgiveness. And right now we're under time pressure. We really want to get to our scheduled closing on April 22nd. Rates are going up. When we started this refinance several months ago, we were carrying a rate under 3% in our pro forma, and now we're up to 3.75%. So time is of the essence. And it seems like the easiest thing to do is just to subordinate the town's mortgage to the new first mortgage via this priority agreement. And I talked to Valerie a little bit by email about this, but why it's a priority agreement and not a simple subordination is because there are so many sources in these projects, and why I couldn't actually quite answer Valerie's question about comparing the original position of the town to its current position. There's no one document that spells out the original position. You know, we look through the land records and have to piece together what is subordinate to what. A priority agreement just spells it out all clearly. And we're not changing anything about the position. I think, as Valerie mentioned, you can see when KTP got that water loan from Vita, like, gosh, well, maybe, I don't know, it was a little bit before my time. The town subordinated to Vita at that time. So this is really just spelling out the priority, but instead of the National Bank of People's United, instead of People's United Bank being in first position, now it's Vermont Housing Finance Agency. And, you know, just a little bit of background, and not to lose sight of the end goal here, is that this is going to free up across the 8, actually we're refinancing all 9 parks. It's going to free up about $200,000 a year in cash flow from debt service across all 9 of those parks. So it'll really help us. About half of that is we're planning on beefing up the maintenance budgets, and the other half we are putting aside in reserves, basically, so we can take, you know, better care of the infrastructure and the capital needs in the parks. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. The how is just this priority agreement. And then the other detail that Valerie mentioned is so that the reason we're able to save so much money is largely because we're getting tax exempt financing through VHFA. And in order to be eligible, we have to separate the parks from, right now it's all wholly owned. So like if you looked at ACCT's audit, you wouldn't see, everything would be lumped together except for one park that's already financed with VHFA. This will kind of separate the parks from ACCT's finances. We will still own them as the sole member. Well, this ACCT Mobile Home Parks LLC will technically become the owner, but ACCT is the sole member of ACCT Mobile Home Parks LLC. And I'll actually increase the accountability because that entity will have its own audit separate from ACCT operations and everything else in ACCT operations. So the reason for it is just we have to do it to be eligible for the tax exempt financing.
So Lisa, are you planning on converting or conveying the actual real property to the LLC?
Yes.
But you're not doing that before you do this refinancing?
It'll happen at the same closing.
Val, I see why we're number 4 in the list, because now we're subordinating to the new mortgage. That's why we become number 4 and not number 3 or whatever it was.
No, so the VHFA debt is taking out, you were in the same position, you were behind a first mortgage, but it was People's United, not VHFA. So there's a new source coming in, replacing a source that you're already behind.
Yeah, see, I would have to look at the land records to figure out what the actual position is. I mean, not that it really matters, because, you know, we're just extending it. I mean, it's already been extended by 20 years and nothing's been paid on it. I assume at least nothing's been paid on this at this point. I mean, one of my concern was that the mortgage would still be in the ACCT's name or the loan grant, whatever. So if something should happen and somebody should foreclose, they're gonna foreclose on ACCT, even though the LLC now owns it. So that was my concern with the loan documents that are already currently out there. And I just don't know if this priority agreement really fixes that issue.
I don't think it's an issue. I'm not an attorney, so I'm having trouble explaining why, other than, I mean, there isn't going to be a foreclosure. If there were a foreclosure, VHFA will be coming after ACCT. They're secured in the same priority agreement you are. So if they're okay loaning us $1.775 million on this legal structure, I think that should provide kind of enough comfort to the town that the structure is not putting the town at any kind of disadvantage. Does that make sense?
I mean, I understand it, but I'm not sure that it all flows the way I would expect it to flow. That's all.
Right, yeah.
Valerie, so this $325,000 or $325,000 loan, there hasn't been a nickel yet paid on it. Now it's refinanced for another 20 years, so it'll be 40 years out.
Correct.
But it hasn't
It isn't unusual at all.
but it hasn't cost us any money,
Just administrative.
just administrative. But Michelle asked so Elise, you said it's going to be from ACCT to the same organization? And
It's to their LLC.
their LLC. And what happens if they go under and big corporations or LLCs can go under? Ask Mount St. Joseph College or Green Mountain College in Pulteney. Their banks went after them because they couldn't supply the money. What if they came by and they said, well, our LLC now owns that, not ACCT?
So it's secured in the collateral is the land, is the actual park itself. So whatever they're coming after is the value that's in the mobile home park. They would liquidate that, and that they would be entitled to the proceeds from that. Same as the town. There isn't a general obligate, like your mortgage currently is secured with KTP as the collateral. So if we just walked away from KTP, I mean, I think you would put it up like you do for a tax sale, and you wouldn't, I mean, it depends.
We wouldn't get anything anyway because there's $1.7 million owned to VHFA. So it's
yeah. And I mean, again, like the money came from VCDP for this project. It's not like it's Bristol taxpayer money. And I understand you still want, it is an obligation and you want to look out for it in your role as a select board. It is pretty routine, and it's allowing us to, so that this debt service that we're freeing up, like this is how we have to structure it. The annual debt service that we're freeing up is going to allow us to take better care of the park and keep rents affordable. That's less, we'll be able to take on an infrastructure loan and we won't have to raise lot rents as much, basically. So it's really enhancing the purpose of the loan. But yes, I have 2 attorneys on this. It's 8 parks in 5 towns. The title search just got done today, which is why I was slow on getting you the final draft. And yeah, that's, Dave Venman doing the title work, but it's a tax credit attorney from up in St. Jay who does all of our tax credit partnerships, who's really organizing the closing. It's affordable.
I'm glad Dave Venman did this searches. It wasn't me.
It was a bear.
Yeah.
It's, never going to answer another phone call from me ever again, probably. But yeah, we're in the home stretch, and it's just going to be such a lifesaver for the parks.
Please, let me ask you a hypothetical question, and God forbid, I hope it never happens, but a tornado whoops through there and tears everything apart. Now, I know all the owners own their old 40-odd trailers over there, each of them. And ACCT looks at that and says, you know what, that park isn't worth all the people who have gone, kind of like how many years ago, Peter, did we have? in the city down
Sycamore
there?
Park.
Sycamore Park, and that happened. They walked away, and those owners did, and they got paid out. But what if that happened over there and ACCT said, you know what? We've had an offer from the Union School to sell a piece of land or whatever, and we don't want it anymore. Who's going to be reliable for that $325,000 debt? Is that the town of Bristol? And
Well, I mean, so nobody is liable for it. It isn't like money that you loaned out and have to pay somebody back. It was a grant to you for the purpose of loaning that money to ACCT to buy the park. But I like your hypothetical. What I would say, so first of all, we are required to keep that park as affordable housing permanently, regardless of a tornado coming through. That's the VHCB covenant that's in position number 2. Then I would be coming to the select board or the zoning board and saying, gee, we have 45 units of grandfathered mobile home park zoning. Wouldn't you like to give us that grandfathered 45 units, but instead we'll put in 45 brand new zero energy modular homes, possibly, you know, end up co-oping the park and really upgrading the entire quality of the housing stock that exists on,
okay,
you know, those 4 streets.
okay, I like your analogy there.
I mean, I think we just have to remember this was a grant that came through us and just went through the town to
Right.
KT, well, ACCT
It's
at
a
that
pass
time.
through, not a, it's a pass through,
Right.
it's not our money.
Right.
Well, Michelle, I'm going to look for you. You do a lot of this in your work. What's your gut telling you to do
No,
it?
I mean, I was fine. My only concern was the different names and the different owners and making sure that, you know, that it flowed, you know, if they're actually conveying the property, the mortgages are changing. I just didn't know whether we had to redo the documents. But if there's going to be like a certificate of name change or something that's filed with it, just to show that, I think we're okay.
Right, entertain a
I mean,
motion.
like I said, I don't think we're going to get any, if anything ever happens, the town's not going to get anything anyway. So.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't,
not
Worried
out.
about I wasn't worried ever about getting anything. I was worried about we had to, if something happened and we were on the hook for that grant or something.
Yeah.
No, you're
That's
yeah.
what I was worried.
No, you're
And that's why they said we could forgive it if we wanted to.
right.
which could still be an option in the future.
Right.
Either way, we won't be out anything, or well, we won't be out.
Correct.
Right. We're not going to have to come up with $325,000 of taxpayer money to pay it back.
Okay.
Right. And then just to back away from the hypothetical, this is really gonna, like, we are so invested in the success of this park. I mean, it is right downtown. It actually has paved roads, town water. This is gonna be a very good thing. Next, we'll be like tackling how do we help people access. So there's working through the legislature right now is an expansion of the mobile home replacement tax credit. So helping the folks who live there who want to upgrade their homes get hooked up with a source to potentially do that. Oh, and we do, I will share this with Valerie later, but this is actually part of a whole 1.5 year long study that we did of our mobile home park portfolio to come up with a comprehensive strategy for redeveloping it and doing infrastructure projects over the next 5 to 10 years. So I can share that report if anybody is sort of interested in the deeper dive on where ACCT envisions going with the mobile home parks.
Thank you.
So I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we execute the priority agreement for ACCT and their LCC.
Second.
LLC, sorry.
Okay.
And authorize the town administrator to sign the paperwork.
Absolutely.
And cover the bills.
After she repairs the roof. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried.
Who seconded that?
Joel.
Joel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Valerie, I can come pick that up from you. That's maybe the easiest thing to do.
I can, well, I'll be in on Wednesday and can sign, actually, I can sign it digitally if that's okay. But anyway, I'll get it to you. Is a digital copy fine?
I'll check on that, but we can coordinate by email. And what'll happen, it seems kind of silly. I'm taking everything to the closing on the 22nd, and then it will come back and be recorded. So the closing will happen and they'll come back and be recorded.
At the very least, it'll be available by Wednesday.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I can't wait to come back for Harvest Fest. Sounds like it's going to be awesome this year.
Bring your own parking spot.
Right? I'll bike. I got a gravel bike from COVID. So maybe my husband and I, we have a bike trailer for the baby. We'll come. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much.
Color up that hill, but.
All
All
right.
right.
Moving on.
Have a great night. Thank you.
You too.
Good night.
Speaker.
Yes.
I didn't want to interrupt the last one. So the item number 5, where did we end up with that? I know we came up with the, I'm losing my mind. But where did you guys, I know you didn't make a motion, but you were going to have.
We're gonna have the Rooster Construction evaluate the roof when they're there to do the bell tower.
Yeah.
Provided that Knights is okay with their proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Now, did you stick something in here after this?
No.
No.
Okay. Where did you put that? After 8?
There was,
It's
business.
9.
9. Okay. That's good because I don't have 9 on my paper either. It's all just squiggles.
No.
Okay. Continued appointment, reappointment of town officials, including town clerk, town treasurer, may include deliberation in executive session.
Well, if you had a chance to glance at my notes, the treasurer's terms are up tomorrow. They were appointed for 1 year last year, and the tradition has been for town officials to be appointed for 3 years, and the state statute provides for that for the clerk and treasurer. And I've prepared the forms suggesting that that they be each reappointed for a 3-year term. Also, one of the planning commission, we still have 2 planning commission vacancies, and John Cromer has reiterated his interest in serving on the planning commission. We also have a vacancy on the revolving loan fund, and I reached out to Peter Grant to see if he was interested in being reappointed to the Adams County Regional Planning Commission, but I haven't heard back yet. And there's still 1 vacancy on the Conservation Commission.
Valerie, we have to be executive session tonight? Do we have?
Only if you feel the need to. It's an option.
Okay.
But for a different personnel matter regarding the Public Works Department, yes.
Okay, then I think make a motion, we do all these in the executive session.
Why do we have to do them in executive session?
Yeah, why?
Is there something that?
Have we, Valerie, have we got the job descriptions yet that we asked about almost a year ago when
We don't.
when we went from elected to appointed?
Right. We don't, but I don't personally think that.
I don't think it is either, but I just.
Right.
Was,
No, I checked in on it recently, and they've been pretty busy with a lot of other things, and it just kind of took a back burner. But with this item coming forward, it's back on everybody's radar.
I'm fine doing this now, and I would make a motion to have all those positions be filled for another 3 years, or both positions. I don't know if you want to do it individually or.
I think you can do both the clerk and the treasurer at the same time. Because they're the same terms, so. Or, well, there should be names, so.
Yeah.
So give us a name, give us 2 motions, Ian, it'd be easier.
Okay.
Be clear.
Let's see here. Let me get my. I make a motion to. Are we hiring or appoint? I guess.
Appointing.
I make a motion that we appoint Jen Myers as the town treasurer for for a 3-year term.
A second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those.
Baker, just a
Wait a
question.
minute. Jolie's got a
I'm sorry, I was
question.
muted. And should that thing also say an assistant town clerk?
They
we have to
actually
appoint
appoint,
assistants?
they appoint their assistants.
Oh, okay, all right.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, I make a motion to appoint Sharon Lucia as town clerk for a 3-year term.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried.
And I make a further motion, since John has already interviewed with us and come before us, to appoint John Cromer to the Planning Commission for
Okay.
a seat until 2024, if he is still interested.
Second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
I'll abstain from that because
Why would you do that?
he lives with me.
He's still interested, I take it, Darla?
He is still interested, yeah. And he's
Fantastic.
say hello if you need him to.
Those
He's waving
opposed?
at you all.
Great.
Motion carried. Congratulate him for us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations, John.
Thank you for serving, John.
He's got a meeting tomorrow night.
That's right. Well,
No,
actually,
it's
no,
actually-
that's DRB. He's got a
That's-
meeting in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Right.
Is that it that we have available people to appoint at the moment?
Correct.
Fantastic.
So we'll continue to recruit for the other positions.
All right, on to 8, water operators, special project approval, removal of sidewalk paint and reservoir graffiti.
So VTUMS is looking for the Water Commission / Select Board's authorization to take on these special projects, which would be over and above their contract amount. And I don't have a cost estimate, but I don't imagine it's
Well,
terrible.
that's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, that would have been a logical question, but I don't have an
The
answer.
blue paint is from the sidewalk prop of the downtown construction, correct?
Quite likely.
It would-
Is that the only place to go? I mean, I think that ought to come out of the V-Trans or the budget of that project. That's not, if that would have been a punch list, that would have had to been done on that.
No, that's been closed out, so it would come out of
Well,
our sidewalk project then, or sidewalk budget,
okay.
which is reasonable.
What's,
Yeah, it is associated with that project. It's not,
it should be billed to that project. I don't want to say
Sure.
closed down. I get it. You can't build a state for it, but
Right.
We
then
should
the
be
water
able to
tower
build a state for it.
Yeah. But then there's the water tower graffiti.
right, but I think Joel's right. I think we should, if we approve it, we should have them keep it separate because it's separate monies.
Yep.
The money for the sidewalk paint would come out of the sidewalk budget or something along that lines, and the money for the tower would come out of the water department operating budget.
Yep.
But the spraying, they did the spraying on the sidewalks. VTUMS did the spraying. It wasn't that the other people in the project did it, VTUMS did it. But I do understand about the
But they-
separation.
They called dig safe and asked for it to be marked.
Right, exactly.
So it's not, it's a construction thing we missed.
Yeah.
Next time around, remember it.
I'm the one who put it forward to have it removed because I did remember it. And
Well,
it wasn't done. And that's what, and I have a question about that. I want to ask why we need to approve it for something as simple as this. Why can't Val just approve it? Because I asked 2 weeks ago to have this done, and I've asked her weeks before that why we can't have this done, and why does it have to come before the select board?
I agree with you, Ian. This just should have been approved right in the house, and yeah, it should have just done it. Just do it.
I mean, it's not an emergency thing, but it's like a small thing, and Doc could be like, yeah, great, get that cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why it has to come for us, but it is additional money. It is additional money in addition to their contract. So
Yeah, that's true.
maybe it's just a FYI, I have these guys taking care of this, because it's not something that something like that's not something we're gonna say no to. I don't believe.
Right, but it is above and beyond what their usual contract is, so I do understand that.
Yeah.
And I'll admit this, I thought the same question myself, but in this instance, this was helpful because I'm not sure that it would have occurred to me to separate the one to the sidewalk. So this was helpful.
Yeah, and it's not going to be that much. My only issue, not issue, but my only concern when I brought this to VTUM's attention, they said we can do like a power wash to get it off the sidewalk. Just a couple things. I want to make sure that whatever they use doesn't damage the sidewalk. A lot of it's on the older sidewalk, and some of it's on the new. But they also sprayed the buildings too, part of the facades of buildings, which I didn't think was very, very good. And so I don't want them spraying buildings and removing paint and things like that. And it's on maybe 5 or 6 building facades just at the bottom, but they did hit the building as well as the sidewalk. So I just wanted them to exercise care when they remove all this to make sure they're not damaging the buildings.
Do you need a motion, Valerie, or are you comfortable with what you have?
I'm good.
Okay,
I hear a consensus.
all right. So we'll move on to 9. Ian, could you read that for me?
Wait, real quick question, sorry. So just to be clear, the half of it's going to the what is it, sidewalk project? I had it written down somewhere.
Whatever the cost
Yeah,
is.
and then the other one's to the water department, is that it?
Yeah.
That is
Okay,
correct.
all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
All set?
9 is to review draft of our 2021-2022 select board schedule, goals and priorities.
Okay. Let's review.
So hopefully folks had a chance to look things over. I'm going to share the screen. Ta-da.
Whoa.
Yeah. So this is a draft.
Oh no, it just popped bright white.
Yeah. So here we are approaching May. And these are some of the things that are on our front burners. Let's see. But hopefully folks had a chance to look things over. And one of the purposes of this calendar is so that you can look ahead and see what the dates are expected to be for the upcoming meetings. And some months have 5 Mondays, so we can either plan for a break or things might come up where those extra Mondays come in handy. And then on the other pages, there's a sampling of the things that we've completed, which is nice to be able to look back on and reflect and realize that we actually got a lot of things done. And then things that are currently on deck, some of which are reflected in the calendar up above, but some of them aren't because they haven't been slotted yet. But this gives us a bird's eye view of some of the other things that we're going to be juggling. And some of them are more time sensitive than others. And then down here is stuff that's on our wish list or on the distant future, but it's still, we still want to keep these on our radar. So I don't expect necessarily full thoughts tonight, but I just want to bring this to your attention, maybe get some preliminary thoughts, things that we should add or subtract from the lists, and get your sense, at least at this point, your sense of priorities. I understand we've got the water ordinance. That's clearly a high priority. And we have the water hearing budget or the water hearings coming up soon. So I'll stop there and let you share your thoughts.
I like that. Consider assessor candidates, hopefully.
Right. Well, one of the things I did today was reach out to two professional assessor people to let them know that we're looking, and just bring it to their attention and to let them know that we'd be interested in their thoughts and if they're interested.
Mhm. One thing I wonder about, Valerie, and I know you may not have that information yet, is we know that there'll be some money, some COVID money coming to town, and we might want to put that on here about discussing how that might be best spent.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's been released about details about that yet, has it?
No. Nope, I check every day. Planning Commission is also going to reach out to member towns with whatever information becomes available as soon as it's available, so that we can begin those conversations. And one of the good things to know is that we're going to have more than 1 year. That this funding isn't going to be under some time pressure. There's going to be some time to put projects together and get them through permitting
Right.
and other kinds of process.
Right, it's a 3-year, right?
Right.
Remember rightly? Yeah.
But they have to in some way be COVID related.
Right, and that's the mystery.
Right. Yeah, my understanding is they haven't decided if what kind of parameters they're going to put on it. If it's going to be more open-ended, or if it's going to be, like you said, very COVID related. From what I understand, the leaning is to be more open-ended with it, but don't hold me to that until.
Right. Yeah, we're all just waiting right now.
Kind of like Washington and infrastructure. It's getting a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
Val, do you want to put on here the procurement purchasing policy somewhere in there?
Sure.
I know we were supposed to talk about it tonight, but I also know that might not happen.
It's definitely not going to happen tonight.
I got that from your email, but
Yeah. Golly. Yeah, at 3:30, I still hadn't even gotten to open up the file yet. So.
You want to add on the? Go on, Joe.
Valerie, in a couple of weeks though, so we're going to meet on the 26th. So we're going to have something in May, final water ordinance draft. So, tracer wire and those types of things that we've been talking about. Are we going to
Right.
have that so we can put that for our June water department meeting, public hearing
Right.
meeting, so we can vote and set that and then forward from July 1st or whatever. That's a goal that I really want to see.
Right.
Talking about digging to our curb stop and this and that. And, I expressed my feelings to you last Thursday or Friday that I think we need to have that as a goal, not just a goal. It has to be done by our June water public hearing.
Well, if for some reason it doesn't get done or finalized by then, it's certainly an opportunity to discuss it.
Well, you can always redraft it and make, we can put as much as we got into a motion into that for June, whatever that water public. Be.
Right.
If we, in July and August, we come up with another fund we'd like to see, then we can add it. But instead of making this document perfect, we're going to be years before we make it perfect. We need to the construction guys got to stop digging to our curb stops and not letting our water department know. We have to back them, or our word doesn't mean anything.
And Val, do you want to add the CLG onto this anywhere? I know that's been in your other business, in your reports for the last year or two.
I think it's on the wish list.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there, sort of bottom of the wish list right there.
One day. At least it's there. That's good. I mean, that's obviously a full plate of things. In the wish list, we've got our scoping study, the West Street South Side sidewalk upgrade from Champlain Farms to Maple Street. I'd like to bump that. I feel that we've done so well with the infrastructure of the intersection and the remaking of Main Street. And sidewalk, you know, we have the scoping study for Stony Hill. We're doing a scoping study for
Munsell Avenue.
Munsell, thank you. And so I'd love to see West Street. I mean, it's sort of, you can see how terrible it is out inside of the front of the post office now that we've put in sort of new asphalt, because we sort of had the Main Street paving come through, and there's nothing, there's no sidewalk there. It's incredibly dangerous just walking through Champlain Farms to get to the post office. And the post office is, you know, a heavily used building right in the middle of town. It'd be nice to get some sort of scoping study to figure out, can we put sidewalks there, and can we make that a much more safer walkable area?
Okay. Yeah, so here you can see the water ordinance update on our current list.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that come off the list and, you know, now it's a policy.
Right, right.
Marco.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, one question, and I'm going to put Eric on the spot briefly. One of the things that's on the list here was the upper notch slide, right? Upper notch slide repair on our current list. And he emailed a quote today from Masterson to do this work. So Eric, if I could just tap you for a moment, is what the current thinking is on that repair, timing and funding wise.
Well, funding wise, not now. Timing wise, it depends on when you guys come up with the funding.
Okay.
What's your proposal?
The fund
Or
is in the area of $25,000.
No. What are you proposing to do to solve the issue?
oh, I got prices on to do another 3 rows of blocks.
Right.
And to, of course, you know, the excavation work in the back, trucking the blocks from Ireland, I think.
Where was it?
Was it Carrera?
Career.
Yeah, cool. And you know, clean to set them. I asked Stephen to give me to go up and look at it. He was supposed to send me an estimate Friday afternoon. I don't know if he got busy and didn't get to it or what, but I never got one from Stephen. And then you guys, have you seen the ECI one there for the pylon driving?
On Briggs Hill? But
no, in the upper notch, it's all in the same email.
Actually, you did forward that to me, and I haven't gotten to that one yet.
Yeah, I believe it's in the same email.
So you feel that the courses of blocks will solve the problem with the work behind them?
Yeah, I don't know, Peter. That stuff up here is it's weird. The only problem that we have with that area is just in the springtime. Other than that, it's hard as a rock.
Yeah.
So the easiest and cheapest way to do it is, you know, you could do another 3 layers of blocks, see how that goes. If that doesn't work, you know, don't take out the road in the back for the excavator, leave it there for, you know, I would suggest another 3 or 4 years. And that way, if you got to add another layer, a few layers of blocks, you don't have to rebuild the road. You can just track up. And then you just do that, and eventually it'll level itself out where she won't slide anymore.
Or at least it won't come over the blocks.
Right, right. At least it won't come over the blocks. It'll level itself out.
The wall will be 30 feet, 40 feet, 50 feet high by then.
It might be, it might be.
Speaker or Eric, do we know what the slope is there now? I know it's fairly steep, and then with the 3 layers of blocks and maybe some big shot rock behind it, would that help it, Peaker?
Yeah, Eric and I went up and spent a fair amount of time up there walking that, and it's a lot steeper when you get up standing on it than what it looks from the road. It looks halfway decent from the road, but when you get up there, it's fairly steep. And we talked about maybe lining it with rock, kind of like what we did down by the Lord's Prayer Rock, where we laid the rock up the bank to hold it.
Yeah.
Not, there again, not 100% sure if it's going to be effective, and I would hate to spend that kind of money and then not have it work. We've laid the rock up the bank in a couple of places and had real good success with it, but not anything like that.
Well,
And
come
I'm
on,
not-
we had engineers up there to design what they designed and said would work, and it's not. So, I mean, we're never going to know unless we try.
Yes and no. It was supposed to be, the top was supposed to be laid back further, and at the time of year it was done, it was so hard that they couldn't lay it back, and I think the operator was a little nervous being up there on that bank. It definitely takes somebody with a little bit of nerve to do something like that.
I know a couple of guys.
Nerve or stupidity?
Well,
Nerves. But could it, if that was what I'm just getting back, the 3 rays lowers the block or layers of block, and then it cuts the slant down a little bit. Could you put some vegetation in there, some small shrubbery, some trees or something? I'm thinking more of a Christmas, that type of shrubbery, not maples or things to hold it.
I mean, like ground cover.
Ground cover. Yeah, Michelle. Not grass, but ground cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that's not heavy. Any tree you put there is going to be heavy enough so eventually the weight
Correct.
will pull it over.
The slide.
Is it worth having another engineering study done? Or is it something that we know enough about it?
We didn't have an engineer last time. It was the state that looked at it. And I don't.
But wasn't it their engineer, Peaker? I thought it was their engineers
But
that.
it was. And Valerie, didn't we apply for a grant for that and we didn't get it a few years ago or a year ago? Or Eric, maybe?
No, we did not, because I think they needed to have some sort of engineering study done. And we didn't have any additional information to develop an application with.
I mean, because the first money for that came from the state, from the grant, correct? And
yeah.
Just before my time.
Yeah, it did. We got a grant from the state for that. Up to, I think it was up to 45,000 or something like that. I think it was somewhere around there.
I mean, put 3 layers of blocks, not going to hurt it any. Going to cut the slope down some, but as Peter says, it may just slide less, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a term.
Well, once it gets full behind the blocks, it's going to come over unless it's tapered back enough so that it doesn't. We talked some about going up there and putting a flat area so that stuff could come down and not come over the blocks. That's another option. Go up there and cut it back, 15, 20 feet behind the blocks, maybe like a road, and it'll be steep behind it, but it'll have that area to slide into, and eventually it'll find its own angle. But
So
like
this
you said, this time of year, the water's coming down through there, and that's when it slides.
So on this particular project, what would be our next steps?
funding.
Yeah, I mean,
Decide what direction we're going.
Right.
Speakers, you guys walked up there. Is there enough room to so-called flatten it out and try to put some ground cover on it without the 3 more layers of blocks? Or is there's just not you'd have to go all the way to the top of the mountain to get it flattened out enough?
well, to lay it back some.
Yes.
You'd have to go up there more than what's there.
Yeah, you'd have to go back a fair amount up on top.
Yeah.
I don't,
And this is private property, is that right? So
yeah, it belongs to Lathrops.
Lathrops.
And they were okay with us laying it back before.
Yep.
I mean, obviously if we went up there again, we'd have to ask again.
So we have a proposal from Masterson's. What were we asking him to do? We're talking about a lot of different scenarios now, but we have a proposal on the table, right?
Masterson's just gave me an estimated price. I told him that this was just basically to get information on how much it was going to be, so we could budget for it in the future. You know, I told him it wasn't going to be something that was probably going to be done right off. So this is just for the board's information for getting the funding for it.
Yeah, and that just arrived today, which is why it was on my mind and seeing it on the list.
Yeah, maybe we should take another look at it, Eric, and see, refresh your memory.
Yeah, I mean, if we can, depending on what your schedule is tomorrow, we can go look at it after we get done on Lincoln Road if you like.
Yeah. So we've got, who's the guy coming tomorrow? What department's he with?
Jaron, he's with
Stream
operation.
Repair.
And Ashley's gonna be there.
Because to look at the slide I told you about last week, and to look at the one we looked at on the road trip up by Murphy's driveway, because they probably should both be done at the same time, as long as we're up there.
Speaking of road trips, do we want to look ahead and see whether the select board wants to try to do one this year? Or depending on what the COVID landscape looks like?
I'd like to do one. I'd like to do one again in June, maybe early June.
It can't hurt to get out and see what they've done and what they haven't done.
Yeah.
What Eric's knocked off his list, and I'm sure by June he'll have the Notch Road all done.
Shall we wait till we get closer to the time to try to pin a date down, or do you want to?
I would say let's wait until May.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
I'll let you know when I get the Notch Road done, then you can make the date.
Are we gonna have a road trip this year?
I was gonna say that 2021 or 2022, or are you gonna be retired by then?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Are we all right with the proposed schedule?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there a 9A? Is that what you were telling me?
No,
No.
it was in other business
Right.
And the minutes.
Okay.
minutes.
Continued consideration of the update Bristol's
That's-
procurement policies.
Yeah, we'll have
That's
to
not happening.
do another agenda.
Passing on that?
Yeah.
Darn.
Yay!
Putting that on the table.
Approval of March 29th, 2021 meeting minutes. Jeez.
Yeah, that also is deferred to the next time. However, the April 6th meeting minutes were distributed this afternoon.
I make a motion to approve the April 6, 2021 minutes.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Looks like authorize bills
Accounts payable warrant.
warrants and liquor licenses.
Do you want the amount?
Yes,
So I have it
please.
here. It's
It's the one.
$2,651,261.86. And 2 million of that is the school taxes, which is $2,596,559.48.
Wonderful.
Thanks. Was that the one that was sent today?
All right. Select Board Roundtable. Ian,
Noticed some tires, stack of 3 of them at Bartlett Falls. Someone's just left them there. I think someone also mentioned out in Front Porch Forum as well. So, but hopefully Green Up Day folks will be able to grab those if someone can't grab those in the meantime.
they were there last week when Eric and I went up.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, there's a couple more someplace else, but I don't remember where it is. Sorry.
There's some on Hewitt Road and 116, but they're supposedly out there for people to take who need them, and then somebody's going to take care of them.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Sorry,
Like to
Ian, go
thank,
ahead.
that's okay. Like to thank Eric for putting in the mirror on North Street, the concave mirror, to hopefully alleviate some of the issues of if there's large trucks parked by almost the former Almost Home building. We can see, I see you're on the corner now with that mirror. So thank you, Eric, for putting that in. And then I had one question about, so people are cleaning up lawns. I noticed on a couple lawns that folks take their grass and leaf mulch and stuff and they put it in the road. Or they put it on the greenway between the road and the sidewalk. And I'm just curious if there's a policy about that.
I don't know if there's a policy, but I know we've had problems in the past where they've raked it into the road and we've asked them to pick it up. And we probably should do the same if it's raked into the green space.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could
Yeah,
be a hazard, right?
I can see in the road and it's raked in right near one of the drains. So if it rains, I feel that the drain will just be blocked or it's just going into our drainage system, which can't be good. So I can talk to Val offline about that.
Doesn't R&L take yard waste free on Saturdays?
Well, they usually bring a container over for yard waste and then they take it away with them at the end of the day, because when they used to leave it there, people were bringing over everything and just throwing it in the container.
All
So
sorts
they
of
don't
garbage.
Yeah, they don't leave it there anymore.
Yeah, I don't blame them. Well,
No.
I mean, if people know they're there on Saturday, they should bring it over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
getting the word out, I
raking it-
guess.
Raking it into the road, Cy can't pick it up with a sweeper.
Yeah.
It just plugs the sweeper. It doesn't work good.
Yeah, well, we don't want them raking it into the road. We'll have to send them a letter to clean it up. That's.
Maybe a post on Front Porch Forum as a reminder, because it's also a hazard to motorcyclists.
Right, and bicycles.
Yeah, but Ian's saying they're not putting it in the road, they're putting it in the green space.
Well, both.
They're
Oh, okay.
both.
Yeah, it's two locations. One was in the road, I noticed, and one is in the green space. And it seems to, if I remember correctly, it seems to happen the same each year.
Well,
Maybe.
I did send a letter to somebody, a particular person.
What was that? I didn't get it.
Last year, we did send a letter to a particular person about this issue. And I had posted some things on social media, but it's definitely time to do it again.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. That's all I have.
All right, Jolie.
Oh, I got a bunch of stuff. So, Valerie, where do we stand with the pump house repairs? Like are we doing that control board yet? Or
I have not talked with Jill about this lately. She's also getting specs on the generator. She's been communicating with different company, a particular company about having them come and check out the control panel, but it's been some weeks since we've talked about it, so.
Okay. And are they doing it as an electrician or an electrical engineer going to do an analysis on the generator? I mean, it seems like it's way oversized for running those two pumps, but I don't know that. I'm not an electrician or an engineer, so I'd like to see not just replace what we got to replace what we got to put a big, same size. May not need a bigger one or the same size. That's what I'm asking. They need to get what the load is.
Searching it was to just identify what the current specs were and get quotes on that, but.
Okay. I mean, I guess you need to identify what the load is there when both pumps are running. Okay. Eric, did we put the sweeping out to bid this year or no?
No.
Okay. And Eric, another question. You told me we didn't get the grant for Moncton Road. So what's going to do some patch paving up there?
Yeah, I had Mike from Pikes come down Friday. We went over Mountain View Street and Mountain Street and Moncton Road from where we put that culvert in across by Hardscrabble Road to Dave Merritt's driveway. Give me a cost on a shim.
Okay.
Through there.
Okay.
But I'm going to talk with Ashley about that tomorrow because I don't want to put a shim down if that's going to push us out farther to get a grant.
Okay. All right. And then tonight, just before our meeting, I was watching the Channel 3 news, and I know with this COVID stuff and all this, really Uncle Sam bringing us all this money in the state. And I saw there's going to be $175 million in just water and sewer for money for the state of Vermont and just water and sewer. So I'd say, Valerie, I want to make sure that when it times to come and apply, we can apply for these things. And I really don't want to hear the saying, well, we need to do a scoping study or this or that. I want to make sure Alan is ready. So if we want to apply for some money to do some water repair, or maybe that'd be a good time to do that. What is that thing, Peter, that the board's been wanting to do for 15 years? The sewer thing down on Main Street where we can get dilute. I'd like to be ready to do those things and not hear, well, we need to do a scoping study and that's a year out, so we're not going to be able to get any money. Not that we're going to get any, but we at least be ready to apply when it's ready. Okay. And that's all I have.
Okay, Darla.
I was contacted by a couple of families here in town and asking us, and I did see it's on the agendas coming up, to re-examine speed in town. There's been a lot of concern and a lot of postings on Front Porch Forum. And I do recall, I think it was about last year, this time, we had someone come in and talk to us about what has been studied here in Bristol. But there's a request for us to really look into that again. There's some real concerns, especially from folks over on Maple Street. So
we had that discussion last year about it and talked about it. And I can't remember what the ultimate decision was, because I know Bruce was involved in that discussion as well.
Yeah.
It's something that I was working on through Bristol Core, and it's sort of in my wheelhouse when I can get to it. I'm working with Bruce on coming up with ways and concepts to be able to alleviate speed. But it's just a matter of sort of organizing that first meeting and getting that initial roundtable for discussion. But I have the people that had emailed and mentioned on Front Porch Forum, I have details from them too. So I just have to get that going.
I know, the biggest thing is you're not going to stop people from speeding. You can't be on every street. Bruce can't be, or his guys can't be on every street all the time. And I know that it would probably upset a lot of people, but the easiest way to curb the speed is to put a stop sign at every intersection. Always stop at every intersection so that they don't have a chance to get moving.
Yeah.
And then Bruce is gonna be writing stop sign violations. So I don't know, I don't know what the real answer is, but if there's a stop sign, if you head down Liberty and there's a 3-way stop when you get to Pleasant, and then we have to stop at the other end, or if you head, down Maple and you have to stop at Church Street and you have to stop at Pleasant. And I think it would drastically slow things down. Same with Pine Street. It would definitely slow things down there. It would stop people from taking those shortcuts to get around town.
Yeah.
Coming down into town, and instead of going down to the light and taking a right to go to Martin's, they sneak down Pine Street and over because there's no stop signs.
Mhm.
And 30 miles an hour on that street is too fast, but unless the signs are there and the police are sitting there, people are gonna go that fast.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, even at the intersection here near my house on Munsell, people they blow through that stop sign. I mean, especially in the evening. And there are a lot of kids in the neighborhood, so I do understand the concern. But I do think it's something that we could look at again. And talking about signs is my next question is, either I was asleep at the wheel or the snow covered it, but what happened to the stop sign on Spring Street? It's sitting in a garbage can full of sand. Did we discuss that at some point and I missed it?
Eric, unmute.
No, it got broke during the winter.
It did. Okay.
Oh, I was gonna put a new one up Friday and I got busy with pressure washing and I didn't get to it. So my goal is tomorrow, after I get the wing post off the grader, is to go put that up.
No, I just happened to drive up the street the other day and noticed it, and it looked pretty banged up. I didn't know if somebody hit it or what happened to it. So those were the things on my list for tonight.
Okay, Michelle.
I'm good.
Any word on whether he's gonna cut that tree on Burpee or?
Yes, he is going to cut it.
Okay,
He didn't know quite when, but he said he will definitely cut it.
okay. As long as it's on the schedule, I think that's the important thing.
Okay.
Administrators report.
Actually, Peter, I got one more thing. Is Bruce, are you on? No, it's not.
Yep.
I just want to say,
Yes, I am.
I'm sorry. I saw some cement trucks, and not local company, not a Middlebury company or Addison County company, cement trucks coming off from Burpee Road and, came in from the Burlington area. So they had to run, Silver Street, Moncton Road, down through Burpee, and then they headed over through the notch somewhere. That was loaded cement truck. I think it was over 24,000 probably. So I think they should go around, but maybe I'm wrong. But
Well, we're not posted. That our pavement isn't posted.
no, I thought we are just our standard road speaker unless you have a. I
Well,
thought
they're
couldn't
not
cut down
supposed
that
to
way.
take shortcuts. I know that they poured cement for me last week, and they came in 16 and North Street to here. So,
Oh, okay. All right.
but I don't know if it's the company I'm thinking. They have a habit of sneaking down through the back way.
Okay. All right.
Valerie.
So, this time in my written report, I was able to include a list of some miscellaneous updates. Hopefully folks had a chance to glance at that. I'm not gonna go through the whole list, but I did want to add to it that Alan Clark will be cleaning the fountain this week and to
Yay.
get that ready for the season. So I had intended to include that on the list.
Right,
Oh, and if you didn't read, we are no longer a 1-acre town.
right.
Yeah.
Other than that, I have nothing else to add to my written report.
All right. Other business correspondence reports.
Well, for other business, we have the annual contract with Almost Home.
Oh, homeward bound.
Not Almost Home, Homeward Bound. Right. Oh, boy. It's been a long day already. So I can just quickly share the screen if you aren't familiar with it.
Well, it's $650 for them to take any number of dogs, pets we want.
Make a motion.
Or it's $450 and
motion, we sign the
$75 per dog.
Right. I had a question about that. It's specifically named stray dogs, but it doesn't define what a stray dog is. So I'm just wondering, do we know what they mean by stray dog? Is that any dog wandering or any dog we don't know the?
Our definition is any dog that's wandering that doesn't have, we don't know where they belong to.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking of the situation we had last time we met when we said we would take that dog or that dog would go to them. Does
Right.
that dog fall under this part of the contract?
No.
They've been very accommodating for us.
Okay.
So they seem to be flexible.
Yeah, because under, Darrell, under option 2, homeward bound will accept strays. This contract does not, in black underline, provide for any holding period for dogs seized by the town.
Exactly.
But they,
Well, that one, we didn't seize it.
but we were going to last year.
Their neighbors took the dog down.
Right. Last year, we had a warrant issued to seize the dogs if they hadn't been registered, which would have been in violation of the ordinance. But they were willing to accommodate that.
To help. Okay.
So I think it's a collaborative relationship.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear about what stray dogs meant.
Yeah,
Option 2 is the one that we typically take, correct?
correct.
Right. Although
Jill
it's
made a
lot more
motion.
It's a lot more expensive than it used to be.
It's been 600 for the last few years.
Yeah.
It used to be 400.
Oh,
Joel made a motion and I'll second that.
All right. Further discussion?
Is he doing option 1 or 2? Because I didn't hear the
2.
rest.
Option 2.
Okay.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand.
so
Opposed?
So here's a question on these kinds of things, and maybe it goes back to the VTUM's question too. Since I've been here, these kinds of things have been on the select board's agenda each year, including the Green Mountain Engineering annual contracts for the annual inspections of the fire station and the landfill, and they're typically under less than $1,500, which under the the procurement policy ordinarily wouldn't require select board approval. So I don't know if it's something that folks can tell me now, or if it's something we need to look
Take
at.
it off the agenda and prove it yourself. It's
Well,
$600.
I know.
Yes,
So
I think for
really
anything under the
know is-
1,500.
Is there a policy somewhere that certain types of contracts need select board approval? Because I haven't found anything in writing that provides guidance that way.
For some reason, I
Oh,
thought all
okay.
contracts had to be approved by the select board for some reason. I thought that was in one of the policies, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's a renewal, if we can't give Valerie authority, especially for renewal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
You know,
a
agree.
good
maybe
one.
new
Yeah.
contracts we want to know about, but
I think, yeah,
renewals.
any new contracts.
Yeah, I think if it's something that we have to do and we have a company that we're using, like in this circumstances, there's nobody else that takes stray dogs. By the way, motion carried for you, Todd.
I'd say that was single source, wouldn't you, Picker? Straight.
Yeah, that's a single source and I really don't, but there again, there's 2 options and so, if.
Yeah.
If we should decide to change, I mean, I think it's just a matter of letting us know that it's been renewed.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. I'll try to work that in to memorialize that in some way in the updated procurement policy, if and when you ever see it again. But
Look at all the power we're giving you.
Well, it'll free up your
Well,
agendas.
there's not, you know, for the trivial stuff, there's no reason for us to be micromanaging. We don't want to know when
Yeah.
they need toilet paper over to the town garage, you know, it's just not, it's not something we have to deal with.
Right. So yeah, I was looking for some sort of guidance as to why it's been on the agendas every year. But this is good. All right. Thank you.
Is there anything else under other business? Executive session?
Briefly, yes. And with
Are
Eric,
we inviting Eric?
yes, please.
Okay, I make a motion, we enter executive session to discuss personnel matters for 1 VSA section 313, and we are inviting Eric to attend.
Thanks, everybody.
You,
Thank you.
Yes.
Natasha.
Somebody want a
guys.
second?
second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Opposed, motion carried.